The wealthy son chooses the housekeeper as his mentor. What he discovered transformed everything. Ethan stood on the balcony of his sprawling mansion, overlooking the meticulously manicured lawns, the horizon soaked in golden light, but what he felt was a void. A constant reminder of his family's legacy echoed in his mind: success defined by wealth, status, and power. At just 22, he was the heir to a world that glittered with privilege, yet it felt like chains wrapped around his heart, tightening with each passing day. The opulent sports car parked below felt more like a gilded cage than a symbol of freedom. As he wandered the lush grounds, he caught sight of Maria, the housekeeper who had been a steadfast presence in his life. Maria, with her warm smile and gentle hands, had not only cleaned the mansion but had also woven her spirit into its very walls. Years of laboring under the sun had left her skin sun-kissed and rough, yet her eyes sparkled with dreams that reached beyond the confines of their household. "Ethan!" she called, her voice rich with encouragement. He approached, his heart swelling with a strange mix of admiration and something he had buried deep curiosity. "Did you finish your book?" she asked, referencing the novel she had suggested weeks ago. Ethan laughed. "I barely started it." But it wasn't just the book, it was the meaning behind her questions that moved him. Here was a woman who understood struggle, who cultivated dreams day by day, moment by moment, instead of relying on generational wealth. Suddenly, Ethan found himself drawn into her world of humility and hard work, where success was not just a word but a lifeline. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As days became weeks, Ethan could hardly ignore how uplifted he felt when he was around Maria. Her stories of sacrifice and perseverance painted a stark contrast to the rigid expectations of his family. She taught him about the beauty of community and the richness of life beyond wealth, values he once rolled his eyes at. But with every shared moment, he began to see his own life reflected in the lens of her experience. The emptiness that consumed him started to fill with hope, igniting a passion to make a difference that far outweighed the cacophony of his family's ambitions. But the growing bond worried his parents, whispering about class divides and tarnished reputations in hushed tones. "Ethan, you need to distance yourself," they insisted, believing Maria's influence was beneath their social standing. Tension hung thick in the air, a family battleground where loyalty was a prize uncertain. That very moment, a crisis erupted in the family business, throwing them into chaos. Ethan tried to navigate the storm with privilege, but his plans backfired, stirring discontent among board members and family alike. At the critical moment when the fate of the business seemed dim, Ethan felt the shift within himself. He remembered Maria's lessons about integrity and the essence of true success. Standing before his family in that emergency meeting, he took a deep breath, filled with determination. His heart raced, echoing every lesson she had taught him. Would they understand? Or would they see his honesty as an act of betrayal? In this pivotal moment, with emotions running high and the destiny of the family business on the line, Ethan stared into his family's eyes, ready to challenge everything he had once accepted without question. With the stakes higher than ever, could he redefine success not just for himself, but for a family so entrenched in privilege? He was standing on the precipice, and the question lingered in the room: was he ready to reshape his identity and embrace the community that Maria had opened his eyes to? Ethan's heart pounded like a drum in his chest as he stood before his family. The room felt electric, each gaze heavy with expectation. He could hardly breathe. His voice wavered, but he forced the words out. "We can't just keep doing things this way. We need to change." His father's brow furrowed, the confidence that usually radiated from him now replaced by disbelief. "What are you talking about, Ethan? We have a strategy, procedures. You're willing to throw all of that away?" Ethan swallowed hard. "No. I'm saying we need to consider everyone affected by our decisions. Not just the shareholders. What about our employees? The community? Maria taught me that our wealth should serve people, not just inflate our egos. His mother's eyes widened, a mixture of shock and dismay etched on her face. Maria? This is the woman you're taking advice from? She's not part of our world. But she is. He exclaimed, the frustration bubbling to the surface. She shows me what real strength looks like. She's worked to make her life better, and she's done more than any dollar amount could ever mean. We can use our resources to be a force for good. Silence filled the room, thick as fog. He could see his family grappling with his words, the disconnect between their lives and what he was proposing. Ethan's pulse quickened. Would they see the truth, or would they dismiss him like they had done so many times before? Ethan, his father finally said, voice low but tense, this is not how we operate. You need to remember your place in this family and in this business. For a moment, Ethan felt the weight of their expectations pulling him down, but then he remembered Maria's unwavering spirit, her resilience. What if I want to forge my own way? What if I don't want to sit back and watch while we prioritize profits over people? The resolve in his voice surprised even himself. The murmur of dissent rippled through the room, his family exchanging wary glances. Ethan sensed the crack forming in their unified front. He pressed on. I want to help the community we thrive in. I want to build bridges, not walls. If I'm to be a leader, it's time to start leading with heart. As he spoke, he felt a wave of anxiety wash over him, but also an exhilarating rush of possibility. He was no longer just a son playing role in a family drama, he was becoming his own man. I want to develop programs that uplift people, he continued, meeting his mother's gaze. Let us create something lasting, something real. I can't be a part of this if we keep ignoring the human aspect of our business. Ethan's father, ever the patriarch, narrowed his eyes. And how do you expect to implement these ideas? Do you have a plan? I'm working on it. His heart raced. I'll start by talking to Maria. She knows the struggles people face. She is connected to the community in ways we haven't even considered. Disapproval darkened their expressions, and for a brief moment, he felt isolated in his vision. But he refused to back down now. Ethan, his mother pleaded softly, your father knows what's best for this family. You're risking everything. Maybe I have to, he countered, adrenaline coursing through his veins. Maybe it's time for a new direction, one that doesn't just honor our legacy but makes it meaningful. What's wealth without a purpose? He cast a glance around the room, searching for a flicker of understanding in their faces. But they were set in their ways, uncomfortable with change. As he turned to leave, uncertainty gripped his heart. Ethan knew he was stepping into uncharted waters. Would he lose his family's support? Or could he inspire them to embrace a new approach, just as Maria had inspired him? The door clicked shut behind him, and he breathed deeply, filled with a mix of dread and excitement. In that moment, he realized the real battle was just beginning. He had to decide how far he was willing to go to enact this change and if he could truly count on Maria to stand by him as he ventured into the unknown. With determination shining in his eyes, he made his way to find Maria. What awaited him would challenge everything, the doubts, insecurities, even his family ties. Was he ready to face the truth of what it meant to fight for change? Ethan stepped out into the cool evening air, the weight of his family's expectations still heavy on his shoulders. He couldn't shake the anxiety coiling in his stomach. The world outside felt vast and unpredictable, a sharp contrast to the narrow paths he tread within his family's business. Every step toward Maria's place felt like a leap into the unknown. As he walked, he replayed the conversation in his mind, his father's incredulous expression burned into his memory. Remember your place, he said, and Ethan winced at the thought. Was he out of line, believing that change was not only possible but necessary? The familiar streets began to blur under his rushing thoughts. He hadn't fully realized the unrest he felt until he viewed it through his family's eyes. They saw his rebellion as a threat, but to him, it was a lifeline. He had to grasp it tight before it slipped away. When he arrived at Maria's modest home, its warm lights glowed like a beacon. Letting out a soft sigh, he knocked on the door. It swung open almost instantly. Maria stood there, her face lighting up with a smile that instantly eased his racing heart. "Ethan," she greeted, her voice rich with warmth. "Come in, I was just about to make some tea." As he stepped inside, the fragrance of spices filled his senses. The small kitchen was cluttered but inviting, decorated with vibrant art she'd created over the years. This place felt safe, like a refuge from everything outside. "All right, spill it," Maria said, pouring hot water into a ceramic teapot. "You look like you've just seen a ghost." Ethan chuckled hollowly, the sound tinged with nerves. "More like I've become one or a rebel. I had another confrontation with my family." Maria turned, her expression shifting to one of concern. "What happened?" He paused, searching for the right words. "I spoke up. I told them I want to lead differently, to focus on the people affected by our decisions, not just the money. They didn't take it well." Her brow furrowed as she placed her hands on the table. "That's brave, Ethan. But it's not easy to go against your family's legacy." "I get that, but how can we keep ignoring the real impact we have?" He replied, his voice rising with passion. "I want to create something that truly helps the community, to build programs that uplift. Don't you think that's worth fighting for?" A smile blossomed on Maria's face, the kind that hinted she saw his heart. "Absolutely. People need hope. You have the power to change lives," she said softly. "But change requires patience and strength." Ethan nodded, feeling something shift within him. "What if I mess it all up? What if my family cuts me off?" "Then you'll have no choice but to find your own people," she said firmly. "You can't allow their fear of change to stifle your vision. Sometimes, it's about taking a single step, even when the staircase ahead is shrouded in darkness." Her confidence was infectious, and he felt emboldened by her belief in him. They spent the next few hours brainstorming ideas, poring over paths he could take to connect with the community. Each plan sparked a flame of hope within him, driving away the doubts that lingered like shadows. As the night wore on, excitement bubbled between them, ideas filled the air, laughter broke through moments of tension, and for the first time in a long while, Ethan felt like himself. Despite the thrill, a gnawing doubt began to creep back in. Would his family truly listen? As the clock struck midnight, uncertainty lingered, but a new question formed in his mind: was he ready to face the consequences of his choices? He glanced at Maria, who caught his eye and offered a reassuring nod. If he was to fight for change, he'd need to summon every ounce of courage he had. The time for action was fast approaching. "All right, what's next?" he asked, determination flashing in his eyes. "Next," Maria started, her tone serious. "You need to prepare for the meeting. You'll need a plan to present to your family, a strategy that showcases what you envision." Ethan's heart raced. Could he really pull this off? Would they accept his vision, or would they resist him again? He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility settling over him like a heavy cloak. It was time to prepare for the battle of his life, and he could only hope that when the moment came, he would not just be facing his family but also the truth about himself. The stakes were higher than ever, and the question loomed in the air: would he fight for his dreams, or would he falter before the pressure? Ethan paced back and forth in Maria's cozy living room, his mind racing with ideas and doubts. He could already feel the meeting on the horizon, looming like an unwelcome storm. The weight of expectation lay heavily on his chest, but the hope he felt in Maria's presence kept him grounded. "All right, let's break it down," Maria said, pulling a notepad toward her. "What do you want to achieve in the meeting?" "I want them to understand that change is necessary," Ethan replied, his voice steadying. "We can't just keep following the same old paths. I want to propose community programs, initiatives that genuinely help people, not just fill our pockets. Maria nodded, her eyes bright with encouragement. And how do you plan to present it? You need a solid foundation. Facts, figures, personal stories, even testimonials. Ethan felt the excitement stirring again. I could reach out to some community leaders. Maybe they'd share their experiences. That would give me powerful points to make. Exactly. She said, tapping her pencil on the paper. And visuals might help. What if you created a presentation? Bring it all to life. He was beginning to feel a tingle of exhilaration. The thought of actually presenting something tangible made his heart race, but it also reminded him of the looming threat of rejection. What if his family laughed at him again? What if they dismissed everything? Ethan, you're not just pitching a plan, Maria said, sensing his hesitation. You're sharing a vision of the future. If you believe in it, that passion will shine through. They might surprise you. Taking a deep breath, he looked around the room, the vibrant art, the faint scent of spices, the warmth that enveloped him. This was his sanctuary, a place where he could brave the most daunting battles. You're right. They might be shocked, but I have to hope they'll at least listen. As they continued their brainstorming session, they transformed anxiety into actionable steps, each moment fueling Ethan's resolve. They set a timeline, everyone could help him refine his ideas over the next week, and Maria promised to assist him both in research and rehearsals. Together, they'd build a plan that was not just strategically sound but also heartfelt. Hours slipped by unnoticed as they jammed ideas, laughter ringing through the cozy space. But as they closed their session, a sense of weightiness settled back onto Ethan's shoulders. The next step would be crucial, facing his family. The thought sent a shiver through him. Ethan, Maria said softly, sensing his retreat into worry. Whatever happens, remember it's okay to be scared. Just don't let that fear silence your voice. He looked at her, feeling the depths of her understanding. Thanks, Maria. You always know how to ground me. As he stood to leave, he felt invigorated, yet the doubts bubbled up again. What if their legacy held too tight? What if they ridiculed his ideas? Before you go, Maria said, her voice directing his gaze back to her. Don't forget, your dreams matter. Fight for them. You have people who believe in you, even if your family doesn't. Ethan nodded, gripping the doorknob, prepared to face the cool night air once again. He stepped outside, glancing back at Maria, her figure glowing softly in the doorway. What if they think I'm just an idealist? He muttered to himself, fighting the creeping dread that sneaked in like an uninvited guest. That he took a deep breath, shaking his head. No, he whispered, steeling himself. I'm not just that. I'm more. As he made his way home, determined yet uncertain, images of the meeting filled his mind. He knew he was approaching a fork in the road that could change everything. But would he take the step toward his dreams or remain shackled by his fears? The night wrapped around him, silent and observing, as he navigated the streets. And within that silence, an urgent question formed, echoing the doubts that surged in his mind. Would he be brave enough to stand his ground, or would he silently surrender to the weight of his family's expectations? The next morning dawned, and Ethan woke with a newfound energy. Sunlight poured through his window, warming the room as if urging him to rise. He sat on the edge of his bed, heart beating faster than normal. Today was the day he'd truly begin to shape his destiny. After a quick shower and a cup of coffee that could wake the dead, he opened his laptop. Emails, messages, all potential lifelines. Reaching out to community leaders was priority number one. He had to make connections, share his vision, and ignite a spark of support. But as he typed, a voice in his head nagged at him. Do they really care what I think? He pushed the thought away and sent out messages, pausing only to gaze out the window. The neighborhood buzzed with life, kids playing, neighbors chatting, the distant sound of laughter punctuating the morning. Each sound pulled at his heart, reminding him why he was fighting for change. By noon, responses started pouring in. Some leaders were eager to meet, excited about a chance to share their stories. Others were more hesitant, questioning his motives. Each reply made the knots in his stomach twist tighter, but he pushed through it, fueled by the fire ignited during his session with Maria that he decided to grab lunch at a local cafe, a small place his family had always overlooked. As he stepped inside, a bell jingled overhead, and the familiar scent of fresh bread and coffee enveloped him. The cafe was bustling with patrons chatting, the barista cracking jokes, and laughter echoing off the walls. "Hey, Ethan. Long time no see," called Mark, an old school friend who was sitting at the counter. "Hey, Mark." Ethan waved back, surprising himself with the ease of it. The familiar face grounded him, reminding him that not all bonds were strained. "Can I join you?" Mark asked, sliding into the seat across from him. "Yeah, sure," Ethan replied, grateful for the companionship as the two caught up. Mark spoke of his own hopes and dreams, the challenges he faced trying to establish his own business. "I feel like everyone's against me," Mark confessed, his eyes clouded with worry. "I don't know if I have what it takes." Ethan listened intently. "But you do," he said, finding comfort in his own words. "I mean, if you're passionate, that counts for something. We have to push through the doubts, right?" They shared stories about hopes and fears, and with each moment, Ethan felt a strength surge within him. It was one thing to dream of helping the community, it was another to realize that everyone wrestled with their own battles. As they finished their meals, Ethan shared his plans for the upcoming meeting. Mark's face lit up. "Dude, that's awesome. You have to go for it," he encouraged. "Thanks. Honestly, I'm scared. But talking to you feels empowering. Whenever you feel weak, remember why you started." Mark smiled warmly, the words resonated, echoed in his mind as he left the cafe. Ethan felt taller, buoyed by the infectious energy of the community, and he walked with renewed purpose. But as evening approached, a shadow loomed in his heart. The impending family meeting hung overhead like a storm cloud. Would their skepticism drown out everything he believed in? Would fear steal his chance to make a difference? Ethan stood at his front door, lingering for a moment before stepping inside. Tonight would reveal more than just his true intentions, it could redefine his relationship with his family. What if they saw him? Not as a reluctant heir or a fugitive from their expectations, but as a passionate advocate for change. The weight of the world felt heavy on his shoulders as he whispered to himself, "You've got to believe." Little did he know that buried in his family's legacy lay truths that could change everything. Would he be ready to confront not just their expectations but his own understanding of who he truly was? Ethan stepped inside, the warmth of the home enveloping him like an embrace, but it felt more like a shackle today. The familiar sights around him, family photos, the old grandfather clock ticking away in the corner, the worn leather couch reminded him of a past filled with expectations. He took a deep breath, determined to step into this meeting armed with his new sense of purpose. As he made his way to the dining room, his pulse quickened. His family sat around the table, their faces bathed in the golden glow of the overhead light. They were a mix of concerned and curious, the evening's agenda a heavy weight between them. Ethan's mother, Sarah, gave him an encouraging smile, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "Ethan, glad you could join us." His father, Richard, said, his voice steady but tinged with apprehension. "We've been discussing some new ideas for the business, but I know you have something you want to share too." Nerves flared in Ethan's chest, this was it. He knew his vision contrasted sharply with their business plans. He cleared his throat, feeling the collective gaze of his family. "Thanks, Dad. I've been thinking a lot about the community and how we can make a real difference. Isn't the current focus on expanding our market enough?" Richard interjected, brows knitting together. "Your mother and I have put years into building this legacy, we can't just divert our resources." Ethan could feel his stomach drop. "But what good is all of this if the community around us is struggling? We have the opportunity to change lives." His younger sister, Emily, watched him wide-eyed, a mixture of fascination and concern on her face. She had always been his biggest supporter, but even her presence wasn't enough to quell the rising tide of panic within him. "Ethan, you don't fully understand how the business works," Sarah finally chimed in gently. "This isn't just about helping people, there are risks. We have a reputation to uphold. Maybe I wouldn't if you didn't push for a certain path," Ethan shot back, the words tumbling out before he could stop them. "It feels like you want me to follow in your footsteps, but that's not who I am." Silence fell heavily around the table. His parents looked taken aback, while Emily's eyes glistened with unshed tears. Ethan's heart raced, part of him urging him to backtrack, but another part stood firm. This was a moment of truth. "I want to create programs that help others find their own voice. I want to work directly in the community, not just profit from it." His voice quivered slightly, but he stood tall, ready for whatever reaction came next. The room buzzed with a tension that felt suffocating. Ethan could see his father's jaw set tight, frustration flickering in the depths of his gaze. "And you think you can do all this with no experience? You're throwing your future away." Ethan swallowed hard, thoughts racing. "I've got my passion. Isn't that enough? What's a future worth if it's built on the backs of others?" "Enough." Richard slammed his palm on the table, causing the cutlery to clatter. The noise rang through Ethan's ears like a starting gun. It had ignited something deeper, a conflict that had been brewing for ages. As their eyes locked, Ethan felt an uneasy churning in his stomach. At that moment, part of him was terrified of what lay ahead. But another part, a growing part, was ready to fight for a future that felt right. "Think carefully about what you're choosing, Ethan," Richard warned, his voice quieter now, more measured. "You don't understand the consequences." And then, amidst the echo of those words, a flicker of doubt shot through Ethan. Could he truly navigate this chasm of expectation and conviction? Was passion enough to change a family's legacy? As voices blended into hushed murmurs, the air tinged with uncertainty, Ethan's resolve hardened. "I won't back down. I'll prove to you that this is my path." He stepped back, feeling the weight of the decision rest entirely upon him. So many unspoken thoughts loomed. Could he really redefine his legacy, or would he always remain trapped under their scrutiny? And what if the truth of his family's past was more entwined in his struggle than he realized? With a heavy heart but fierce determination, he whispered to himself, "Time to find out." The next morning, Ethan woke up to the sound of birds chirping just outside his window, a fresh light illuminating the room with the promise of a new day. He sat on the edge of his bed, the weight of last night's confrontation still heavy on his heart. Doubts crept in like unwelcome guests, whispering that he was an amateur swimming against the current of a powerful legacy. He glanced at his phone, the notifications flickering like fireflies. Social media seemed to inundate him with images of successful ventures, powerful figures, and thriving nonprofits. For a moment, he felt the familiar sting of inadequacy, but then, a message broke through the noise. A photo from Emily captioned, "You can do this. You just have to believe in yourself." A spark ignited within him, igniting the resolve he thought might have flickered out. He needed clarity. He needed guidance. He slipped outside, the crisp morning air washing over him. Almost instinctively, Ethan made his way to the community center down the street. It had always been a place where he felt a connection to those around him, a hub of activity filled with laughter, art, and shared resources. But now, it seemed to hold the key to everything he desired. As he entered, he was greeted by familiar faces. Ms. Lena, the director, looked up from her desk, a warm smile spreading across her face. "Ethan. What brings you here this early?" "Hey, Ms. Lena. I need your advice. I've been thinking about ways to help this community, and I have some ideas I want to work on." Her brow furrowed slightly, revealing a flicker of concern. "You know it's not easy, right? People have learned to rely on every scrap of support they can get. Are you willing to commit to that?" "Absolutely," he replied, determination solidifying in his voice. I want to create a platform for change, to help those who feel voiceless. Ms. Lena leaned back in her chair, assessing him. It takes courage to stand up for what you believe in. But you need more than just passion. You need a plan, experience, and insight. I can help you, but are you ready for the possibility of hard truths? Ethan's heart raced. I'm ready. I want to learn. All right, she said, her stern demeanor softening into something more encouraging. We'll start by connecting you with some local leaders. They've been through struggles you may never understand, and they'll teach you a lot about what this community truly needs. Ethan felt a wave of relief wash over him. It wasn't just about his vision anymore, it was about collaboration and understanding. For the first time, he felt the stars align beneath his feet. Days turned into weeks as Ethan delved deep into the community's issues. He met with local business owners, listened to families share their stories, and discovered the power that comes from unity and action. Each encounter added layers to his vision. What had once seemed naive was evolving into something tangible, but with every spark of inspiration came the stark reminder of his family's expectations, the legacy waiting to be inherited, the business they had built together. His phone buzzed again. A message from Richard read simply, "We need to talk." Ethan's heart sank, uncertainty creeping in. Was this the moment where his parents would demand he abandon this road? The stakes felt higher than ever. He looked around at the busy community center, where laughter filled the air, and where he now felt more grounded. Could he truly navigate this space between family loyalty and the passion that ignited his soul? As he took a deep breath, ready to face whatever came next, uncertainty loomed like a looming cloud overhead. What would happen when he finally revealed his progress to his family? Would they support him, or would the weight of their legacy threaten to crush his dreams again? And there it was, the question he couldn't shake off. Was he ready for the ultimate confrontation with his family, and could he hold on to his newfound purpose no matter the outcome? Ethan's heart raced as he stood in front of his family's home. The majestic facade loomed above him, a reminder of all that was expected. He knew Richard would be waiting inside, likely with their parents, in a warm, yet formal setting that felt utterly suffocating. That air of expectancy was heavy, like a lead blanket on his shoulders. Taking a deep breath, he pushed open the door. The familiar smell of home wrapped around him like a worn-out sweater. "Ethan!" His mother called out, her voice light but edged with concern. She emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel. "There you are. We were just about to eat. Come join us." "Thanks, Mom, but I need to talk to Richard first," he stammered, his voice catching a bit. As he headed toward Richard's study, he felt as if he was walking into a battleground, weapons drawn. The room was quiet when he entered. Richard sat behind the imposing oak desk, the weight of tradition in his expression. "Ethan," he said, eyes narrowing slightly. "You've been distant lately. What is going on?" I've been working on something important," Ethan replied, the words tumbling out like loose marbles ready to roll away. "It's about the community center." Richard leaned back, his expression unreadable. "The community center? You mean to tell me you've chosen to spend your time there instead of getting involved in the family business? That's not what this is about," Ethan protested. "I believe there's a lot of potential to create real change there. I'm connecting with people, learning why they struggled for so long. They need support, not just charity." His brother's gaze softened for a moment, and Ethan saw a glint of something, curiosity, maybe. "What do you think you can really do there, though? It's not nearly as prestigious as what we have here." Ethan felt heat rising to his cheeks. "It's not about prestige, Richard. You know that we can use our resources to uplift them. I've met people who've overcome immense challenges just to make ends meet. They inspire me." "I get that, but you're risking everything, Ethan. Dad and Mom expect you to take over, to continue what they started. What are you going to tell them?" A lump formed in Ethan's throat, thoughts of his parents swirling in his mind. Could he really shatter their dreams? I need to follow my own path. I need to honor what I believe in, he said, his voice steadying but full of uncertainty. Following your heart isn't enough. You don't understand what's at stake. Richard shot back, the tension in the room crackling like thunder. Ethan swallowed hard. What about what I've learned over the past few weeks? I can bring something fresh and necessary to the table. If they've ever cared about me, they should support my choices. Richard seemed taken aback. You really think that? You think they'd just drop everything for your new whatever it is you're doing? Why not? Ethan felt a surge of righteous anger. That's the question we need to ask. Why can't we contribute to the community meaningfully instead of just looking down? I refuse to sit on the sidelines and ignore what's happening outside these walls. His heart pounded in the silence that followed. Would Richard understand? Would their family even back him? Just then, the door swung open. Their mother stood there, eyes wide with surprise. What's happening here? Ethan's stomach twisted into knots. The moment of truth had arrived. He had to speak his truth, to declare the path he felt destined to follow. As he opened his mouth to speak, he was ripped between two worlds. Could he find the courage to reveal his soul's yearning and face the potential wreckage of family expectations? Mom, I have something important I need to share. As he started, another voice chimed in from the hallway. And what could be more important than family legacy, Ethan? It was their father, and in his tone, Ethan felt the weight of generations poised against him. An unsettling chill ran through him. What would he say next? Would he stand firm, or would he crumble under the pressure? The crossroads loomed before him, and with it, his heart pounding louder than ever. Ethan's heart sank at his father's words, the chilling tone echoing in his ears. He froze, grappling with the sudden weight of expectation that hung in the air. Looking from Richard's uncertain face to his mother's wide eyes, he felt the lump in his throat swell further. Dad, he finally managed, this isn't just about the family legacy. It's about what we can do with our privilege. His father crossed the threshold, arms folded tightly across his chest. What you consider privilege is our family's hard-earned success, Ethan. You're throwing that away. You're throwing everything away. But, Dad, it's not that simple. Ethan felt the heat rising in his face. We can do so much more than just maintain the status quo. The community center could genuinely help people. Those families. Don't you dare compare your idealism to the hard work this family has done. His father snapped, his eyes glinting with anger. You're naive to think you can roam around and change lives without understanding what real responsibility means. The community is there because of people like us. An icy wind seemed to sweep through the room, filling it with unspoken tensions. Ethan looked from Richard to his mother again, desperate for support, but all he saw were masks of discomfort. Ethan, Richard spoke, a touch softer now, maybe you could volunteer. But taking the family business, at least try to think of it as a possibility first. You're looking to jump into something without consideration. No. Ethan's voice exploded, startling himself. I can't volunteer for something I believe in, Richard. It's a waste of potential. The door is already open for us. Why shouldn't we step through it? Because stepping through could lead to disaster, their father interjected, frustration boiling over. Your mother and I have given you everything. Do you know what it looks like to watch it all slip away because of a whim? It's not a whim. Ethan shouted back, blood pounding in his ears. I've met people that show me what matters. I've witnessed their struggles. Their hopes. I can't let this go. Then do it. Live your life. His father's voice quieted, some of the frustration draining, revealing raw desperation. But know this: there will be consequences. I guess I'll have to face them, then. Ethan steadied his voice, realizing now it wasn't just about him, it was about standing up for what mattered to others. Ethan turned away from his father, feeling the anticipation of what lay ahead take over. "Mom," she stepped forward, her brow furrowed but her eyes shimmering with understanding. "Ethan, you know we love you. It's just hard for us to see you take risks that could ruin everything." The finality of her statement stirred something deep within him. But what if it could build something better? Ethan took a breath, looking at the three of them, each face holding a fragment of fear, understanding, and love. The silence stretched into a thin thread, binding them together yet fraying at the edges. He stepped back, gathering his resolve. "I know this is tough, but I have to do this. I can't turn my back on what I believe. I need to talk to the families, to see how we can make a difference. If you can't support me in this, then I guess you'll have to decide what that means for us." With those words, Ethan walked away, not just from the conversation but into the unknown that lay ahead. The community center was buzzing with life, people discussing, planning, dreaming. He could hear them calling for him, asking for help, eager for change. It was bright and messy, filled with laughter and hope. As he stepped into the vibrant chaos, a wave of warmth washed over him, and for the first time in a long while, he felt alive. But the question loomed large: how would his family react? Would they truly turn their backs, or was there a chance for understanding? As these thoughts whirled in his mind, a voice interrupted his reverie. "Ethan. We've been waiting for you." He turned, greeted by a familiar face, someone whose laughter felt like home. She smiled wide, her enthusiasm infectious. "We have some big plans. Today. Are you ready to change the world?" Ethan chuckled, feeling a flicker of hope as he replied, "Let us do this." Just then, his phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out, heart racing. It was a text from Richard: "We need to talk. Mom and Dad want to meet you tonight." Ethan's stomach dropped. What now? What would they say? Would he be ready for what was next? As Ethan stood in the bustling community center, the vibrancy of life wrapped around him like a warm hug. It felt right, this was where he belonged. The laughter of children, the soft chatter of families planning their future, the spark of hope in their eyes ignited something deep within him. This was more than a mission, it was a calling. But then, the message from Richard echoed in his mind: "We need to talk." The weight of his family's expectations pressed heavily on his heart. Would they support him? Or would they try to pull him back into the safe, familiar arms of their legacy? The uncertainty gnawed at him, but he steeled himself against the anxiety. After wrapping up a community meeting, where plans for uplifting the local youth were set in motion, he felt a sense of purpose fill his lungs. Every shared idea, every hopeful face reminded him that change was possible. It wasn't just about him anymore, it was about everyone. Later that evening, as he prepared for the confrontation with his family, he was a swirl of emotions: fear, courage, excitement, trepidation. The reality of facing his parents loomed large, but he learned from Maria that bravery didn't mean the absence of fear, it meant standing tall despite it. Ethan arrived at the family home, the facade looming above him like a giant weighing down on his spirit. He hesitated at the door, clutching the edge of his jacket. Taking a deep breath, he stepped inside. The familiar warmth of home washed over him, but the uncomfortable silence told him this was no casual gathering. "Ethan," his mother greeted, a smile masking tension. "Thank you for coming." She gestured for him to join them at the dining table, rich aromas of dinner wafting through the air. Richard was already seated, his brow furrowed like a storm cloud. "Thanks, Mom," Ethan replied, settling into his seat but feeling the weight of their collective gaze press down on him. Richard broke the silence first. "I spoke with Mom and Dad earlier. We need to address this commitment to the community you've undertaken." "Commitment?" Ethan echoed, suppressing rising emotions. "Is it so wrong to want to help?" Richard leaned forward, his voice steady yet uncertain. "It's not wrong at all. But you're risking the family's future for what sounds like a fleeting whim." Ethan took a deep breath, steadying himself against the mounting tension at the table. "It's not a whim, Richard. I believe in what we're doing. I've seen it, the need, the hope in people's eyes. If we only care about profits, then what is it all for? Ethan, their father interrupted, voice heavy with authority. You really need to understand what's at stake. Your mother's family and mine invested generations into building what we have. You could destroy that with idealism. Your decisions affect us all. Ethan's heart thundered against his ribs. But Dad, don't you see? It's not just about us. It's about the community. We have power, and with that comes responsibility. We could do so much more if we open our hearts. Silence blanketed the room, each family member processing his words in their own way. Tension clung to the air like humidity before a storm. Finally, his mother broke the silence. Your father and I understand your desire to make a difference, but what? Ethan interjected, passion igniting his voice. But it's too risky. Or too different. Tears shimmered in his mother's eyes. No, honey. We're concerned for you. We're worried you'll get hurt. Ethan felt a pang in his chest. I can handle it. I need to try. Richard shook his head. Why can't you just agree to help part-time? You could still work within the family. You could have both worlds. Isn't that what you want for me? Ethan countered, feeling every word resonate within the depths of his spirit. To live in both worlds. But I can't pretend to follow a path that feels wrong. I want to be a part of change, not just observe. This is real. Ethan's voice trembled but held firm. This was his moment. If I'm going to carry the weight of this legacy, I don't want it to be one built on disconnection. I want to create something that not only reflects our history but honors the lives we touch along the way. The atmosphere shimmered, the truth rattling in the air like thunder. His parents exchanged glances, something unspoken passing between them, the silence stretched, thick with realization. Then, their father spoke, his voice softened but steady. If this is the path you want to take, then you have our support. Ethan's heart soared. Really? Richard nodded, a hint of a smile tugging at his lips. But you must commit. Make it successful. Tears blurred Ethan's vision as he nodded, flooded with gratitude. I will. As they wrapped their discussion, Ethan realized it wasn't just a battle for change, it was a shared belief that at their core, family was about love and support. The journey ahead would be testing, but he felt ready to embrace what came next. As their voices faded into laughter and joy, he breathed deeply, a sense of peace settling in his heart. He had taken the leap. The community awaited, and side by side, they would rise. As he stepped out, the evening sky held countless stars, promising a brighter tomorrow. He was not just Ethan the heir anymore, he was Ethan the changemaker, ready to inspire hope and transformation within the community and himself. And remember, if you felt this story touch your heart, here's your moment to act. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next incredible journey we'll share together. Hit that like button, your support means everything, and it feeds the algorithm. I want to hear from you in the comments. What did you think of this transformation? Did it inspire you? And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this. Only true fans understand the power of spreading positivity. Let's keep the momentum rolling.